Hey, Anthony. We're here today to talk about FBARs. They're very complicated. There's a lot of penalties, and you want to make sure that if you have any FBAR filing requirements or issues, you get them taken care of correctly.
That's right.
The FBAR can intimidate a lot of people, and we've seen tons of different clients come in with lots of different cases, like
Foreign life insurance, foreign pensions. Right now the IRS is bragging now that has been 1.2 million FBARs filed in 2015. And we know what has been filed, a lot of them aren't correct, that they're missing certain things. We know those penalties can be hard and they can be difficult. And we also know there's a lot of FBARs not filed. And I would say the majority of those ones that filed are the ones that are, probably at $11,000 account value. So because, if you look at the growth, the IRS says, we're averaging a 17% growth every year. And that would be odd that people are magically, 17% of people went from $9,999 to, $10,000.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of people, so I think, it's also showing a lot of people probably aren't going through the offshore programs. There's sort of a mismatch of numbers. We have a lot of FBARs filed. Now, some of them may just be delinquent FBARs where there is no need to go through a program. But then you have the IRS press release of like, look at how many people gone through the offshore voluntary disclosure program. We're missing a lot of people in there. There's really a lot of people. And I know a lot of people, they didn't want to go through an offshore program, so they just filed an FBAR, hope for the best. Right? They did a qualified soft disclosure, whatever that is. It's made up. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of FBAR issues sort of lurking about that are going to be starting to come around. And as an FBAR attorney, I've seen a lot of these issues, and we're going to be seeing some more of them. So we have people with unfiled FBARs.
Yep.
That happens. We have incorrect FBARs. It's going to be happening more.
Yep.
People's FBARs are being audited. Now, this is also the thing that this is some good news, bad news. Okay. The bad news is the IRS has 6 years to assess FBAR penalties from the date of non-filing. The good news is that so far the IRS hasn't started FBAR audits. Now, bear with me. What they do is they started income tax audit, and that's a Title 26 audit that leads to the Title 31 audit. And usually they're only looking at the last 3 years. Now that auditor can go and say, wait, let me look at the other years. They can do that. And also and this is bad news too, they also could have you could file your FBARs. There's a penalty for not hanging on to your records. And they can penalize you for that too. So you have 5 years on that. So those are things that to look out for. The other thing we work on is FBAR assessments and opt-out audits. A lot of the things are similar as an FBAR audit. The thing is we have a little bit better negotiating as here's somebody who came clean.
Got it.
So we're not reacting. We're able to get our narrative out. FBAR appeals. We've dealt with FBAR appeals. It is the IRS Office of Appeals that handles it, and they're pretty ssharp people. I'll be honest. They are really sharp, and their job is to look at the likelihood of litigation. Is this a case that will win? And they really look at that, and so you will get some surprising results. And I would just say this: tax noncompliance has nothing to do with FBAR penalties. And sometimes that could work in your favor, and sometimes it doesn't matter. So that's just something to be aware of. And when you get your overall strategy together, you have to what you're really trying to do when you're bringing an FBAR case is assume you're going to get that in front of an FBAR appeals officer, that you lost everything before, but you're building a case for the FBAR appeals officer so that they can rule in your favor. If they don't, you still have a great case should the IRS decide to sue you in federal court for those FBAR penalties.
Yep.
And that's where also FBAR litigation strategies come into place. We're really trying to make a lousy case for them. That's our job. Because there's a lot, this is the other thing too, there's a lot of great FBAR penalty cases out there. And so we don't need to be, it's the case of you don't need to be faster than the bear, you just need to be faster than one other person. That's sort of the thing. You don't need to have the best case. You just need to not have the worst case sitting there like a duck.
Right.
Just sitting there with every bad case, and they can just come in and hammer you.
And we've seen, a lot of clients come through our doors or teleconference like we do, and they're sort of unsure where to go for help because this isn't a well-known issue yet where there's a lot of
That's
specialized
right.
offices that can help. So, people often ask, well, can I just go to someone local? How do I find someone that can help me? So, there's a lot of questions you have to ask if
Right.
you're considering hiring someone. It's extremely technical, the FBAR.
Yeah.
You need to know the ins and outs. And if you don't, the IRS will take advantage of you.
Absolutely. They
We've seen
absolutely,
that.
and we've seen it. We've seen it. And unfortunately, people have called us in cases where it's too late for us to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, it's just not worth it. This is unfortunately, this case was mishandled. And I'm sure the person, the CPA or attorney you hired, nice person, great, but they used you as a learning experience. And they were really going in unknown. Oh boy, there's just so much at stake. And I think that's really the thing. You need to understand what's at stake. This defies logic, okay? And it defies your conception of fairness, and it defies probably your conception of what the United States government is if you're a U.S. person. Mm-hmm. If you are not in the U.S., you'd say, yeah, I would
I get
completely
that. Yeah.
understand the IRS would do this. But we have, unfortunately, so many people in the U.S. have this completely naive belief that the U.S. government is on the side of truth and justice. The U.S. government is on the side of the U.S. government, okay? And any justice is incidental to the U.S. government propagating itself. So that's what you really need to understand. And this FBAR is just them flexing your muscles. And if they grind you into the ground and leave you penniless, they're fine. They get a press release, and they're going to say facts about you that whatever may or may not be true, but you're not going to look like a good guy, and you're not going to like what happens. And so this is something where you just don't want to mess around with.
No. We've said again and again, it's more of telling your story. It's not just filling out a quick, simple form.
Right.
It's making sure you have all the facts lined up, and you can back up those facts and then tell the entire story.
And you need to know consequences.
Yes.
You need to know, what's the consequence of this? How is this actually going to play out? How is it really going to go down? So, just feeling around in the dark, this is, there's some things, what's the harm in doing? Sometimes you could file a tax return, be totally wrong, right? And what's the worst that's going to happen to you? You're going to be, assuming nothing criminal, but you're going to be taxed. Here's your tax bill, and here's some penalties based on your underpayment of tax. Mm-hmm. Okay, we don't even care if you have unreported income. What's the account value? Okay, we want a percentage of that, and we're going to take it. Maybe we'll do more years too. Maybe we'll leave you penniless, and we're going to create a whole narrative that makes you look like a bad person.
And what is this Schedule B, Part 3, Line 7?
Yeah, this is one of the things, unfortunately, that people get to this part. Schedule B of 1040,
Yep.
Part 3, Line 7. This is something that stops people from like, oh my God, I can't do anything. I'm dead in the water. I'm going to be willful. They're going to nail me to the cross. Because there it says on Schedule B, where you're interested, it has something. Do you have any offshore accounts? And people always check no. Because if it says check yes, be sure to file TDF, you file the FBAR.
Yep.
Everyone always puts no. And they're thinking, oh my God, but I put no there. And sometimes you'll get FBAR examiners, IRS examiners to say that too. That's not, you know what? There's a lot of good reasons for saying no. It's a tax return. I don't look at every friggin' page, right? Who does? Did you read the instructions? Do you know everything? And this is the thing you need to understand about the law. The tax return says you sign that return, you know everything you're signing.
Yeah. And you're responsible for it.
And you cannot delegate that responsibility to anyone else. Even if a CPA, an enrolled agent tax preparer, makes a mistake on that return, and you're like, well, no, they're the experts. They said they're the experts at this. You cannot rely on that. You're like, well, you signed that return, and you said you knew the law. And it's sort of this impossible situation. Well, that's where we come into play. Like, come on. This is sort of in contract, something you learn your first year of law school. There's something called an adhesion contract, where here's all the fine print. Sign it. Hey, do you want do you want it or not? Sign it. No one reads it. And so that's where a tax return is sort of like an adhesion contract. I don't have a choice. I got to sign something. I did my best. I hired someone who I think is a pro. I put no. I didn't see it. That's sort of how you have to think of that Schedule B, Part 3, Line 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the last thing, we've done a lot of articles and videos on tons of different forms, so we don't need to spend too much time, but it's worth mentioning that you need an expert because the FBAR isn't the only thing you have to worry about.
And you know what? There's a press release out from the IRS today that sort of demonstrates that. The IRS is, and it's funny what they brag about because there's a little bit more behind the story. As I said, 1.2 million FBARs filed in 2015. Then the article goes on to say, and we've had 300,000 FATCA Form 8938s, which have somewhat duplicate reporting, and the FBAR has a threshold of $10,000, and your lowest 8938 has $50,000. But there's still, and based on our experience, a wide disparity. Wait a second, we have 1.2 million here, 300 here, and then when you realize there's certain things that wouldn't go on an FBAR, like the ownership of foreign stock, ownership of foreign corporation, that go on an 8938, that can quickly get your filing threshold high. I'm looking at this and I'm saying, all these people, there's so many people who are filing FBARs who are thinking, okay, good. I'm in tax compliance now. I hired someone to get me in tax compliance, and they're missing stuff. They're missing their 8938s. They're missing their 5471s. We just finished that. They're missing 35. Their trustee didn't file their 3520A. They didn't file 3520 on their gift or anything from their trust. Their partnership returns, they haven't filed these. And so these are additional penalties there's additional risk here. And this is sort of, it's perversely, and here's the problem. So when the IRS goes to audit you for your missing 8938, and they're going to say, well, that's funny because you hired an expert to file your FBAR. So you must have known that you were in noncompliance because you were aware. You had a heightened obligation. And in a way, you could argue you're in a better position if you didn't file anything, as opposed to this FBAR. Like, well, now you know. Now you know that your worldwide income is taxable. So what's your reasoning? Well, I hired so-and-so. And so-and-so will probably say something like, oh, they didn't tell me about that. That does happen.
Yep.
Or they don't say something, they're trying to get themselves off the hook so they can say something unhelpful instead of saying, yeah, I made a mistake.
Right.
And, by the way, out there, if you are a tax preparer, CPA, attorney, it's okay to tell the IRS, you know what, I made a mistake. Holy crap, my client didn't do this wrong. I did it wrong. It's okay. No one's going to come and say, you have to do something pretty egregious. Did it involve theft? Were you trying to rip off the U.S. government? Point. You're going to be fine. Nobody, in all the cases where we've had CPAs say, yeah, I guess I missed it. And nothing ever happened. So we've had IRS auditors, client under audit. Okay. And she's not hiding a thing. She's saying, look, I have a business in New York and I have a business in Europe. Auditors going through everything, never asks. She goes, oh, you have foreign accounts? Oh, yeah. Never tells her, oh, you need to file an FBAR.
Wow.
Never tells her. So there it is. It's like, so do you think what happened? Do you think IRS auditor? Nothing. She made a mistake. Hey, in the future, ask them about it. Okay.
Got it.
That's it. So don't, that's really something. Don't think, and unfortunately it does happen. People are trying to save their own skin. Don't ever, that's just, first, that's wrong to do. It's just wrong. And second of all, there's no benefit to it. They're not going to do anything anyway.
Check your ego.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, if you have questions, you can leave comments below. You can also visit IRSMedic.com. You can search for FBAR, FATCA, any of these forms. We've got tons of great information. You can also subscribe to our channel for awesome tax updates. Thanks for watching. IRSMedic, the law offices of Parent & Parent, LLP. Real tax attorneys for tough tax problems.